Okay, I hope my slides are visible.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, it is visible. Yes, sir, it is visible, sir, and you are audible also, sir.
Okay, yeah, I try to proceed with my presentation. Right, the topic I have chosen is really a tough topic, which is ethics, basically research ethics in paper publishing, as well as on thesis writing. At present, I'm holding a directorship at Crystal Growth Center, which is a UGC national facility. And I don't know how many of the participants are interested in science and technology, especially on crystal growth. But we do start from salts like Tata agglomeration, with salts to technology. We do grow all the crystals from semiconductors to superconductors to biological thing to everything. So if you have a chance and if you have interest, please visit us. And we encourage the research scholars as well as PG students to visit us. And we also provide some kind of monetary facility under UGC National Facility Scheme. And for that, you can write with the proper proposal, and if the proposal is matching with the objectives of the center, and we can invite you for a visit of minimum 1 week to 3 weeks. So you can make use of the program which is available at Crystal Growth Center, supported by UGC. Okay, now I directly go to the topics. When I went through the schedule, it's already been yesterday very good lecture on paper publishing, but still I try to spend some kind of 10 to 15 minutes or a little more on publishing the papers and how the ethics are involved in publishing, and then more elaborately on thesis writing, research as well as research ethics. Okay. Yeah. So research, there are major accomplishments only when you try to publish whatever results you have and whatever completion of the objectives you have. But before going to the publishing, right, you encounter almost all sorts of problems. So the task of writing a research paper will be a daunting task, and it's a even with a very, very good research, very best research, groundbreaking research, all right, even if you write the paper in a better way, at best, right, the publication will be delayed. At worst, it will never be published. But the process which you have to do is you have to submit the thing to the appropriate journal or the whatever publishing houses, right, to publish as a journal, as a book, or as a report. And the presentation of the publication or the paper will should provide an overview of how to write a well-structured research for any publications. Okay. Before you write any research paper, right, whether the publishing, the research has to be of caliber to publish, and why you want to publish, whether is it interesting or it is new or it's a current hot topic, and will provide some kind of solution to some difficult problems, and what is the necessity, and are you ready with some kind of backup results to publish at that particular point. If answers for all these questions are yes, then start preparing your manuscript and to find appropriate journal for publishing. Okay. So the process of research and its publication, right? So you try to have some kind of objectives, and you try to complete the objectives with proper results, and you try to prepare the manuscript according to the standards prescribed by journals or the specifications prescribed by the journals, and then you try to submit the manuscript. Then it is assigned for peer review. There are maybe, depends on the journal, maybe 1 reviewer, 2 reviewer, even 5 reviewers, depending on the journals. And then a decision is taken by the editorial committee or the chief editor. All right, most of the time, right, it gets rejected, and sometimes you get revision, and then after revision you try to go for a resubmission, and then it again sometimes may go for re-review. After re-review also there is a possibility that it may either get rejected or accepted. Once it gets accepted, you try to go for publication. So starting from the work which you start at your place with the objectives and carry out the research and get the results. Right, it takes lot of procedural thing to go for publication in a report or journal or book, whatever medium you can have. When you come to the peer review process, again, the reviewer, right? It may be either a single reviewer or 2 reviewers or many reviewers, right? Once the reviewers accept and complete the review, right? You may be either asked to revise, or without any revision it may be accepted, or totally it may be rejected, right? There is a possibility with some journals that you can go for adjudication of the paper, research results, and then again you can submit for revision, and then it go for acceptance, right? So as a total, the journal publishing process, you submit, referee, and goes for revision, and if there is a need, it go for more revision, and then goes for publication. You see the this view graph, right? Many times, right? Most of the times, right? It gets rejected, and only part of the time, right? It goes revision. So only when you put efforts which will be more concentrated and more prominent or appropriate, the journal which you send to paper, right? It will get accepted, and also the results, whatever results of your research, right? It should be more relevant and appropriate to the society. Then only you will get acceptance of the paper. Otherwise, it will always go for a rejection. Okay. Simply putting, this is a view graph which I borrowed from a Japanese scientist, right? Which gives you, it's a kind of a base where you do research, and also you get the research, and this is a kind of road to publication, which you have to climb a mountain-like thing. Only when you are able to climb that mountain, it gets published. It's not so easy. It is not so easy. First, you try to submit the manuscript to the journal. Okay, from the submission stage itself, right? It may get back to you after quality check, or it will go after even quality check to the editorial committee. With the editorial committee, again, technical check, right? After technical check, the appropriateness and other check from the journal, scope and everything. Sometimes even at this stage, right, if we come back, 5% of the papers which are sent to the journal comes back before going to the editor itself, right? So more than 5%, right, it will come back, right? After it goes to the editor, right, 95% goes to the editor, 5% is returned back by the scope of the journal itself or the editorial committee itself. Then after that, it goes to the, right, usually it will be 3, 2 or 5 reviewers, right? Reviewers, which goes to the editorial decision, reject, accept or revise, right? Then most of the thing again comes to the author, right? Then totally more than 40% gets rejected. This approximate data for any scientific journals, right? Only 40, 45 goes down, only 55 are again goes to the quality check, editorial reviews, revision, and then for publications. So whatever uh, subjects, right? The average percentage of publications goes to the journal in a reputed journal is only 55%, not more than 55%. But how to structure a publication from writing, right? There are several scientific writing, normal research articles, research papers, there are review articles, research reports, and research projects for funding. This is a specific topic which I saw also has been dealt in the morning by some of the authors, right? And some of the findings will be patents, and finally dissertation of thesis, which I try to come in the next topic after this publishing of paper. Okay, so these are all the scientific writings one can attempt with the results, with the research and with the results. Okay, the research articles. These research articles you can write as a letter or articles, communication, research notes, or supplementary articles. But each kind, letters or articles or communication, has their advantages and also their limitations. Okay. Yes. Before going for writing the manuscript, all right, you have to be more clear about what is the introduction, what you do as kind of research, right? Methods, processes, and I think these parts I try to come on the next topic also, which is research thesis writing in an elaborate way. But before that, I try to go in for a continuity to substantiate or justify how one can publish without any problem. Okay, what did you find, which are given in terms of results, and what does that means, right? Which you discuss. So these questions, right, it has to be addressed to have better publications in it as a manuscript. And the structure, the usual structure in a journal is that you have a title which should be precise, very, very precise, right? Only when it is precise, that it will be seen by many people, and you will have a very easy way of like an advertisement or a way of projection your paper for many authors to see. Then abstract. The abstract, usually it will be 50 words or 100 words like that, not more than some sentence. Important part of any research publications, which all right, will be of one page, not more than one page, and the problem statement. All right. So what you try to address in detail about the research work, it should not be more than one page, and the idea, right? The whole paper idea of the research and idea of motivation or objectives. Again, it should not be more than 2 pages. The details which you elaborate, right? It should not be more than 5 pages. And you can have supplementary data or related work, right? It should not be more than 1 or 2 pages. Finally, conclusions and suppose if you give for suggestions or further work, it should not be more than half a page. So this should be this will be the structure for most of the journals, almost 90% of the journals, articles to publish. Okay, as you see, right? there will be, once you publish or you send to communications, right? There will be many readers who can see the title, right? Those title is very, very important. I have listed on an average, right? There will be 1,000 readers who will see the title. Only when it is convincing, right? Then they will go for abstract or contents, right? So the title it should reflect almost very good contents, and it will attract many readers. So the abstracts, which I said 4 or 5 sentences or of a page or less than 100 words, right? It will attract 100 readers comparatively with the title. And introduction, again, it will attract 100 readers. Then the problem which you state in a page or so will attract only 10 readers. Finally, if you go the whole details, right? Only 3 readers will go through everything which you have written in your article or communication or report. So the title, many readers, substantially it will come to very, very minimum. Almost you can see 3 in 1,000 for the whole research work which you report in an article. Okay, so this part of the manuscript will be different for different journals. This is the one of the major thing which is common, and everything is title, abstract, introduction, methods, results, discussion, acknowledgements, references, and title and keywords. Abstracts are used for electronic churches also nowadays, so they should be more attractive and also more informative. Right. So the components of a paper, right? The title, which clearly describes what are the contents in the article, right? The authors ensures recognition for the writers, right? This part I try to come in the last, in the ethics part, as well as on the research ethics and the next topic. Okay. The abstract, which you write in a research paper, describes what was done, and the keywords ensures the article is correctly identified, because this is very, very important for reviewers to select the reviewers, as well as to send the appropriate reviewers to review your article. These keywords are very, very important. So this ensures the article is correctly identified in abstracting as well as indexing services. The introduction, explains the problem. The methods or the problem statement explains how the data were collected. The research describes what was discovered. This is again one of the classic thing which you have to be more careful. And then finally, most important and which forms heart of the research article is discussion, right? Which discusses the implications of the findings. So whatever research you do, right, which will be reflected only when you discuss in a proper way, right? Discussions are very, very important, and it forms a significant part for acceptance of any manuscript in a journal. And then finally, acknowledgements. This is one of the key thing which forms the ethical part. So you have to acknowledge whoever helped you and whoever contributed to that research, and ensures those who helped in the research and are recognized. Then references. This part again I come in the ethics part. Right, ensures whatever, right, related published work which are previously available in the literature as well as recognized by the research community. Then finally you have to give supplementary data in the form of appendices. Okay. So I try to skip how one can write the abstract. So it should be brief, and should not assume too much and highlight specifically the items which are important, and it has to be more specific with the problem and how you achieve whatever the problem you have chosen, and it should be very, very brief, not more than 4 or 5 sentences. Okay. Then I try to go for introduction. That introduction part, it should describe the problem, right, and it has to give the insight about what are the contributions you have done, the novelty, features of solution, and how one can evaluate whatever the results we got it, and it should target, right, whatever the audiences or authors who are all interested, and it should not be more than one page. All right, I try to skip the examples. So it is problem. So list of contributions, what you are going to give in the contents of the body, right? You should give as a problem statement, whatever topics you have chosen. Before going to the actual topic, you discuss inside the body of the paper, a research article. And more, again, this is one of the important thing, right? Contributions should be refutable. Either you can accept the previous results or research work, or you can make some kind of argument with a thing. So it should be kind of a comparative one, whatever you contribute to the research. Okay. I need to go. Yes. The good manuscript, which has some kind of attributes, it describes whatever you did in the research, and it compares, right, both pro as well as against your research results. It associates whoever involved in it, and whatever the topics associated with it, it analyzes, right, whatever perspectives, and applies the research results. And this is the most important thing. This is argue as well as against whatever the literature says. It gives you clear insight about what you achieve in this research results. And the manuscript should be concise but powerful. It should not be story-like, and it should be specific to the point. And again, this is one of the recent problems in most of the articles. There will be a lot of grammatical and language errors, so you should be free from grammatical and stylistic errors, right? Recognizing contributions is the ethical thing, and it should be technically correct. Even if you have some kind of contradictory results, right, it has to be technically correct, and it will form a good manuscript. Though, right, we do very good research, and we try to get very good results and very good discussions. We can form part of the research, but sometimes it will always lead to problem with writing. So we have to avoid such kind of problems in writing. So good writing only will give you exposure with good research. So the quality is state of mind, and good science findings are exposed only with good writing. And great findings need to be reported in the best possible way. So the writing forms the best part of reporting and publishing. When you present the idea, explain the paper like presenting in a white board, and convey with the intuition, right? With your intuition, which is primary, it is not secondary. Once your reader has the intuition, he or she can also follow the details without any difficulty. Even if he or she skips the details, right? Still come with valuable data details you give while presenting the research results in the body of the thing. And the details should not have a kind of non-evident one. So you claim something and you provide the evidence to support each and every claim in your research data, right? So the claim or evidence forms a majority of the research results. And if you want to concentrate on a specific point, you can repeat it twice or thrice, whatever way, like a picture with text, or text with equation, or methodology with example. So the clarity is very important to clarify the tricky concepts with 2 times or 3 times so that it will be more attractive and catchy with the reviewers. So the claim should follow with evidence. So this claim evidence should form basics for whatever results you give in your research paper. Yes. The claim evidence is a major thing, and it should not be the facts then conclusions. So you should go hand in hand, which means that you try to provide something and you try to conclude there itself. Right? What are all the problem statement you have given? What are the solutions you have? Research objectives you put in your research paper. So the results in the research article should be descriptive and concise, and also it should give data in a concise and accurate way, short and easy to understand, consistent with whatever you have given in the abstract, introduction, and also which you are going to give in conclusion. Right? So try to have elaborate details, but at the same time no extra details. There is no need to substantiate with unnecessary detail, only sufficient information so that minimum text is required. Don't repeat information and graphics and text. Though you have to be more clear with tricky 2 or 3 times focusing on a particular topic with picture and text, but it should not be the case that it will be repeated several times in terms of graphics and text. Appropriate numbering of figures and tables, and significant number of figures, required figures, and speculations and out of the way discussions should be avoided. Right? Avoid words such as proves, confirmed, removed all doubts. Right? So this extra superlative words, it may not be necessary for substantiating whatever results we got. Yeah. If the problem is well-known problem, your idea could be derived by readers' preconception that the problem is solved or impossible, just like this everyone else approached, right? But if you are so confident that you can refute these points and you can make a refutal and you can contradict whatever the literature says with concise, right, justifiable research results. Yeah, this is one of the major ethical problem in research writing as well as thesis writing, right? To make the related work whoever done in the previous literature, right? It's a bad thing like that. So there is no need to say that others are work is bad, so that your work is good. This is a false approach. It should not be the case in any research paper as well as in any research thesis. But you try to substantiate. Credit, give credit to anybody who did the research previously and who gave some kind of idea in a previous literature. Acknowledgement is the best part of ethics as well in the research writing as well as paper writing and thesis writing, whatever way you expose your research results. So giving credit to others does not diminish the credit you get from your research articles. Yeah, this is again one of the important things. Some of the reviewers who review your paper or your article or manuscript may themselves have an expert, and you may not have given credit to them. So failing to give credit to others will kill your own research article. And pictures are easy to expose the research results. So use terminology and big pictures, right, to substantiate your research results with text. Yeah, discussion. This discussion is the best part. which will give you very good value to the research article. And also this is the hardest and most important part, hardest section to write, and also it's the most important section to address in a research article. Use descriptive headings, concisely summarize, answer whatever questions you put in your introduction as a problem statement, and try to correlate. This is very important thing of the previous existing literature with your finding, and try to give whatever advantages you have got with your approach, or what are the disadvantages, right, you got, and also the superiority of your procedure, and also if there are some contradictions, discrepancies between your results and the previous report results, you try to discuss in an elaborate way at the research discussion part in the paper, right, which will give all kind of weightage for the acceptance of the research paper. Right, what is new, novel, without exaggerating or with the superlative words, right? Conclusion and summary should, because after discussion you are going to have some kind of conclusion. It should give what you are going to conclude with the perspectives and applications in the conclusion with your discussion. And the research limitations, need for future research, right? If some part of the research manuscript you might have left out, that you can continue with other publications, right? It should also be reflected in your discussions. Most importantly, right, there will be more theoretical problems, right, which have a lot of limitations compared to an experimental thing. But whenever you have some kind of theoretical thing, you have to give credit to literature, as well as you have to leave some room for future research, right? You discuss whatever in your discussion part. Okay, conclusion. This is again very important, and it should be very concise, right? Identify key findings and the application, whatever you did in your research results, and be precise. Be precise. Should not be a summary of the work done. Summary is entirely different from conclusion. Summary you can have several pages, but conclusions it should not be more than half page. And also you should correlate with the abstract and consistent with whatever you did in your experimental part, and also whatever you have given in the introduction part. Yeah, references. References are also very important, right? Which will give you the current citation, the recent ones, and also you should project whatever key references. Maybe it may be in the 1940s or 1950s, but this key reference may be the one which is fundamental one, which might have derived every other references. So the references, sir, it has to give the current ones as well as the key ones, right? Reference citation must be accurate, right? Sometimes you write a different article name or article journal number or article year, right? It should not be the case. You should be accurate with authors, topic, the title, journal name, year, and everything. It depends on the individual journals, but still you should not have any mistakes when you give the reference. And it should be also the paper, right? You may give some kind of references for giving some references in the journal, but it should not be the case, right? Use correct style for a specific journal, which dictates the style for references. Yes. Do's and don'ts. Some do's and don'ts in scientific writings. Be factual. These are some of the ethical things. Be honorable, be legal, be truthful, be objective, and be accurate. Don't try to deceive, don't give anything falsely, and don't plagiarize. This I try to come elaborately in 2 or 3 slides away, but this is some of the. There are many do's and many don'ts, but these are some of the do's and don'ts in the scientific writings. Language, You try to use simple, direct language. Don't try to complicate the language and style of presentation. Right? It is already I have discussed about the references. The summary part. This is conclusions. It should be brief. This is again I have given earlier. Yes. Before going for any publications, try to get some kind of help from your well-wishers or friends or those who are experts, even non-experts, right? So they can read and they can contribute something to the betterment of the paper or the research article, right? This is again getting help from other co-workers or friends who can read and who can give some kind of help to you for getting published is a very good idea. Reviewers, again, the reviewers are the persons who give the review and whose words are maybe final for the editor. So don't think that the reviewers are not suitable for reviewing and why they are asking some kind of clarifications or questions, but the reviewers, they do their purpose. So try to listen to the reviewers and what is best, you try to review once you get some kind of reviewing from the journal and revise it and get it published. So this is one of the, again, very good projection. Treat every reviewer, right? Importantly, treat every review like gold dust, because they give criticism only for the improvement of your research article, right? If the praise, it may not be 100% that your article is error-free or defect-free, but only when they give some kind of criticism, right? There is possibility for an improvement in any research article. So this is really very hard, right, to get some kind of criticism from any reviewer for acceptance. So once you get criticism, try to correct it. Okay, and it is very important, really important. Yes. So this is from editor point of view for publication in a manuscript. The editors, most of the editors, right, they try to find quality, which means good science, well planned, well executed, good presentation, and originality, significance and originality of the article, and consistent with, right, this scope of the journal. Every journal now issues the scope, right? Maybe the scope may be narrow scope or wide scope, right? But your research, whether it is consistent with the journal, you try to see, you try to send the particular journal which has scope for your publications. Okay, broad interest to the readership, which I have already given in the initial slides, that the title itself, right, will show you that whether it has got scope or readership. Then citation. All right, the citation is a major part now being debated on all scientific. All right, so if you have very good citation, right, it gets, there is an easy way of getting accepted. This is a research finding, so don't try to have a story-like thing. Try to be more specific, reporting like thing. Then enthusiasm of the author, again, which goes with the readership, right? You try to give a clear clarity, continuity, everything, so that whoever reads the manuscript gets enthusiastic with your thing. Editor requires such kind of thing. So now I try to come for the ethical part, right? The following problems appear frequently for a journal, right? Submission of papers which are clearly out of scope, failure to format the paper according to the guide for authors, inappropriate. Suppose most journals request suggested reviewers, inappropriate or no suggestion of reviewers, inadequate response to the reviewers, right? Inadequate standard of English, and then resubmission of rejected manuscript without revision. So if the reviewers say that something has to be revised, at least 50% revision suggested by the referee is mandatory, right? Then only they will go for further revision and publications, right? If you send without any revision, right, resubmission, right, it will always lead to rejection. So the rules, write in the paper key points: strong introduction, clear, logical, organized, complete methods, results, relevant, discussions. Okay, I tried to skip this point. I tried to go for ethics. Getting published. Yeah. So this is a thing which is very, very important, ethics in publishing. The scientific misconduct, falsification of results, right? You do either theory or experiment, whatever, the science, social science or natural science or arts, whatever topic of interest to you, falsification of results is scientific misconduct, which is not in line with the ethics in publication. This publication misconduct, right? Major problem is plagiarism. Right, either it will be a self-plagiarism or external plagiarism, right? The plagiarism is a major problem associated with publication misconduct, different forms and severity. I mean, you may say that it is only 1% or 2% or 5% or 10%, even nominal, right? Right, it is dangerous misconduct and it's an ethical issue. It must be original, the paper, whatever research paper you write must be original. And authors, each and every authors, right, should read the paper. And this is again duplicate submission, right? You try to submit the same article to several journals at a time. So duplicate submission, duplicate publication, right? Once published, you have to withdraw, even if you might have sent a relevant one, but duplicate publication, and also not giving credit with kind of acknowledgement to peer research or researcher, those who did help you or who did guide you or supervise you, whatever way you put in, and inappropriate identification of all co-authors. This part I try to come a little more in detail, maybe in the next slides. And conflict of interest, which means that you try to put your own reviewer, your friends, your bosses, or whatever way. This gives you a conflict of interest. This is again a publication misconduct, which gives you ethical issues in publishing. Right? You may miss some kind of review thing, but appropriately when there is a kind of an auditing by someone else, right? Once they find it, then you may have to retract the publications, and it may lead to a lot of trouble to your research career. So it's better to avoid such kind of ethical issues in publishing. So plagiarism is a major problem or ethical issues in publication. Okay. A piece of writing copied from someone else and presented as your own work to steal the credit from the source, right? This is plagiarism. This plagiarism, literally it is a theft and it's a fraud. So there are so many ways, right? The plagiarism is considered, right? For example, turning in someone else's work as your one. This is a major way, right? It's considered as plagiarism. Then copying words, ideas from someone else without giving credit, failing to put a quotation in quotation marks, right? You try to get the some kind of quotes from others, and you try to make another quotation so that it may look like yours, but it is again plagiarism. Giving incorrect information about the source of quotation, right? So citation is a kind of thing, and changing words but copying the sentence structure, so without giving credit, and copying so many words or ideas from a source that it makes up a majority of your work, whether you give credit or not. And most of the cases, right, this plagiarism can be avoided. Right, there is no need. It is not at all necessary. Right, so if you give proper credit and proper citation and proper reference, and so that, right, you took something from someone else's work, and then you proceed with whatever your idea and whatever your novelty, then you can avoid such kind of plagiarism. Simply acknowledging that certain material has been borrowed and providing your audience with information to find the necessary source is usually enough to prevent this plagiarism. Okay, so this is all about the publishing a paper, a research article on ethical issues. Yeah, this is again one of the interesting subject on how to write a thesis and without any trouble. Ethical issues in thesis writing. You try to do research. Under the research, you try to find what is the meaning of research, objectives of research, motivation in research, and then type of research, approaches and research, significance of research, and also research methods versus research methodology. Then finally, what are the processes you use to complete the research, right? You try to find a particular problem and formulating the research problem. You try to concentrate more on extensive survey the literature. You try to develop the hypothesis and prepare the research design, determine the sample design, collect the data, execute the project, analyzes the data, and then you try to test a hypothesis. Then finally generalization and interpretation of the whole research or process, and which goes into the preparation of the report. So finally you go with the thesis. So try to do the research with all these meaning, the objectives, the motivation, types, the research approaches, significance, methodology, and then formulate everything with the research processes, and finally you prepare the report. But everything done, and you have to be more clear with ethics, the codes and policies for research ethics. Right? Promoting ethical conduct in science is an important topic, which concentrates on research ethics. And if you do in a bio or animal related thing, then it is good for an ethical committee. Animals used in research, so specific ethical committee, you have to get the permission, and it's got its own codes and policies for research ethics. And recently, if you go for agriculture research also, right, there are so many ethical issues associated in agricultural research for ethical committees. Yes, just I project what are the ways one do the research. Either you submit a project report or dissertation or thesis, right? You can classify broadly into two categories: masters or doctoral. So the contents, right? You try to go with abstract literature survey, body of the contents, summary, references, and some kind of bibliography. And then for doctoral thesis, the same thing, right? Except you try to go for elaborate research results and suggestions for future, and also you try to include publications and supplementary material for doctoral thesis. Broadly, this is way one give contents in the dissertation or thesis, except project reports. when you come for the actual research, right, broadly, again, you can classify the content of the thesis or dissertation or projects into two different categories. Either this is a theoretical formulations or work or experimental work. When you concentrate on theory, all right, you should be more specific about fundamental laws which you use in your theory, and you have to give credit to whatever laws you use in your theory, and also each theoretical work, research work, you may involve some kind of simulation schemes using the fundamental laws, and what kind of simulation software or simulation ethics you follow in your theoretical research, you should elaborate. And sometimes modeling of the whole laws or simulation sequence you may do in a theoretical research. Again, that modeling design, you have to give an elaborate thing. Everything forms a part of ethics. And some softwares, either you develop your own software or try to get a software done from someone else and may use for your research. That software, the make, and what all the phenomena you use to get the software done, and everything you have to address in your research report or thesis or dissertation when you do a theory thing. Most importantly, the flowchart. Most of simulation schemes and modeling and software, right, you might have addressed only with the use of a flowchart, right? The flowchart you have to give as supplementary material, or even in the contents of a dissertation or thesis when you do some kind of theory work. With the theory work, again, when you use some software package, right, the year and where you got the package and the edition of the software package, the first edition or second edition, and this also matters when you report a dissertation or a thesis. These are all some of the facts which form an ethical issues when you do a kind of a theoretical research and when you frame a dissertation or a thesis, right? When you come to an experimental work, this is a lot of other parameters in addition to theoretical ones, all right? Equipment which you use for experimental activities, right? You have to clearly inform the brand of the equipment, specifications of the equipment, and all the details of the equipment in your dissertation or thesis, right? And then you may have used some process sequence, right? That process sequence should also be given in an elaborate way, in a clear way, without hiding or without giving any kind of wrong credit to something which are not at all relevant to your experiments. For example, if you are doing some kind of chemistry or biological thing, right? Mixing of A plus B plus C will give you one result, right? Instead of A plus B plus C, if you add C to A and then add B, it will give a different result. So whatever the sequence you do with the process, it should be very, very clear in your experimental report of the research. The flowchart, again, right, it forms a very important part in your experimental research also. So both theory and experiment, right, whatever research you report in your dissertation or thesis, right, the certain phenomena, you have to give it in a form of a flowchart, and then only, right, it will form a complete research report or writing of a thesis. You may use some kind of experimental tools which will give you kind of characterization results, right? Then the tools, again, you have to give it in an exhaustive way. You have to report all the details of the tools. For example, for materials research, right? They may use some kind of X-ray machines. They may use some kind of microscopes. They may use other spectroscopical tools. The tool names, each and every name and specifications, brand, and its applicability, right? You have to give in detail when you give the experimental characterization tools. And also, when you go for a kind of a chemical research, chemistry, or even material science, or some kind of chemicals, right? You should be more specific about the chemicals used and make of the chemicals, quality of the chemicals, everything, right? This is one of the important topic which you have to be addressed, and it forms an ethical issue. For example, some people use some kind of oxides or chlorides or nitrites or sulfates, but which may not have a relevance to the literature. They might have used different forms, and also you might have used low purity LOBA or high purity aldrich, sigma aldrich, or other things. So whatever chemical make, right, they should be reported clearly in your thesis report. Then when you do some kind of bio research, right, protocols. This is one of the important thing in the bio or pharma or food related research. When you change the protocol, right, almost all the results will go in a different way. So the protocols in bio, pharma, or food, whatever related research, it should be reported in detail, and it will be specific in any thesis or dissertation. When we do some kind of physical measurements, there may be some 10 data or 15 data or more than 100 data. Every time you try to make some kind of standard deviation and try to find error bar, how much it deviates from the standard deviation and how much error it has got, right? It has to be given in detail when you report your experimental research thing. And when you use an equipment, right, the selectivity of the equipment and the resolution of the equipment when you use a microscope, scanning electron microscope, or a transmission electron microscope, or the whatever thing, it should be clearly mentioned in your dissertation or thesis, right? Because this thesis is a kind of reference Bible for whoever try to refer the thing and try to do continue the research which has been reported earlier in the literature. So the university data will give you, right, whatever information is in the thesis for the future researcher. So the ethical thing is that it has to be reported, everything has to be reported in detail. So the thesis, right, you try to have a literature reference, as well as at the end you try to give references, right? Whatever literature, right, you try to get from chemical abstracts or physical abstracts or engineering abstracts. This is the data which bio, food, pharma have separate data which may not come in chemical abstracts or physical abstracts or engineering abstracts. And also you try to have literature from journals. Most of the journals are topic specific or field specific, and books, specific books, and also thesis reports, whether in your university or from some other university or from personal transactions. And in almost in Western countries, US or UK or Europe or Asian and Japan, right, they have their own university data banks of the reports or research findings from which you can get literature for your work. And in India, especially University Grants Commission, AICTE, and now recently MHRD, they have their own portals to give you literature. And there are many official and private consultancy reports available, and patents, either government patents or from international patents. You try to get your literature from all these information. From there are so many other things, right? Wherever you get the information, right? Whenever you try to have a dissertation or thesis, you should clearly give credit to the particular place where you got the literature. This is very, very important. Once you try to hide something, right? You are hiding or you are trying to avoid giving credit to whatever source. All right. So the ethical issues are very, very stringent when you are not giving any credit to the previous literature or the source. Similarly, when you give your research dissertation or thesis, right, you give a lot of references, right, which you refer in your thesis or dissertation. And again, the references, most of the references in the thesis are journals, books, thesis reports. Again, this is either from your own institution or from other institutions. And most of the metallurgical material and biological data, right, are given from agencies like ASTM, ICTD, JCPDS, etc., etc. And there are many technical reports previously received from many industries like IBM, IEEE, etc. And there are many industrial patents from industries and data banks from scientific agencies like UGC. There are many scientific agencies, both national and international agencies. So these references, it should be clear and specific for the research which you put in your dissertation or thesis. So I come for ethical issues when you write thesis, right? So thesis research should be of original research, right? You should have more clarity on if you have got something from outside source. If you are continuing the previous work from the literature, you should clearly mention that it is the continuity of the previous work and object-oriented. Which is mainly focused for computer or IT-related things. So whatever software or whatever packages and whatever previous literature, right? So you should have clear orientation from the previous literature, and you have to be different from whatever done previously. And in the literature, one should have an up-to-date knowledge on what others have done and what our objectives, our program, our problem, and what it will lead to anything productive, right? Up-to-date knowledge on the previous literatures, right? Most of the dissertations, almost 90% of the dissertation, or 90% of the thesis in India are simple variation of existing procedure, right? No novel ideas or no new findings, right? But it should not be the case. Everything will lead to a kind of ethical issues. Once you go for a kind of theoretical research, you should focus or emphasis on fundamentals, right? So only when you are strong in fundamentals, right, you can have some kind of knowledge on fundamental laws, simulations, and modeling, and then you can put in your own idea, right, to have a different thinking, and then you can contribute something new for the research without any ethical issues. I try to give 2 examples. There are many examples, but I try to give 2 examples. The superconductivity. This is again an application-oriented research. The superconductivity was invented in 1911, but still people are doing research on superconductivity up to our date. The aim is to find room temperature material which will give room temperature superconductivity. But so far, with close, we are able to have 132 Kelvin, and Some people concentrated on sulfides, selenides, and other materials, but few people they concentrate on oxides, right? So the people who concentrated on oxides have strong fundamentals, and they are able to achieve a very good results with their work. So these oxides are able to give high temperature up to 132K until today, right? 132K of superconductivity in materials, and still people are at room temperature and atmospheric conditions. Still people are concentrating on many materials, but they know now the fundamentals, right? They can't concentrate on many other things except focusing on limited materials. So if you have a strong fundamentals, right, there is no need to go for elaborate other things, but you can more easily you can concentrate on specific topics and do something in your own new novel way. Yeah. Similarly, for LEDs, light emitting diodes and laser diodes, again in the material science part, many people were concentrating on materials of from second group in the periodic table and sixth group in the periodic table, which we call as 2,6 materials, and only small quantity of people or researchers, right? They did concentrate on third group and fifth group, and finally now that 3-5 materials forming third group and fifth group in the periodic table, they give very good luminescence efficiency in terms of LEDs and laser devices. And now you can see almost all applications, including the street lights, right? They came up with LED. Even water purification, now people are attempting to go with UV LEDs, which everything is now made of third group and fifth group combination, 3-5 materials, right? So once you have a strong fundamental knowledge, right, you can avoid unnecessary diversion and also some kind of an mismatching or misconduct of research with different topics. There are many new ideas you can put in to the existing ones, novel ideas you can put in existing ones, but in each and every instance, right, one should give credit and one should not deviate from ethical issues, right? The usual ways where we do research or we try to report in the thesis is that we try to find some fundamentals and we try to find different ways to approach topics, different tools, various tools, and most importantly, we try to compare whatever the existing literature and what are all the results which one got, and then the projection of research. This is justification, right? Results with appropriate data, right? No fake data or no cooked data, but appropriate data. And then, as I said when I discussed about the paper, the discussions is the heart of any research reports, right? So you may be for literature reports or against the literature reports, right? Discussions with proper knowledge and up-to-date knowledge of the research which we got without any ethical issues, right, presented before, and reasoning. Their discussions should concentrate more on reasoning and justification, and all these three together, right, will avoid ethical issues. Yes. So ethics form now one of the prominent difficulty when you go for a complete dissertation, project report, or thesis in the master level or in the doctoral level, or whatever level of report. So ethics with original research, right, there will be no issues. And when you have a PhD thesis or master thesis or whatever project reports, right? Choosing reviewers, right, will also lead to kind of an ethical issues, right? You should not have an reviewer who know you personally, or relatives, or friends, or close acquaintances, right? So this also lead to the worst scenario of ethical issues when you submit your thesis or dissertation or project. So try to have a reviewer. Let them go through the thesis, but they may not have the official capacity as a reviewer, which will have kind of issues when you submit your thesis or dissertation. All right. And finally, right, once you frame the topics, you try to complete the project, you try our dissertation or thesis, you try to check the recheck, double check, thorough check, and most importantly, you try for ethical issues, right? This ethical issues, not giving credit, plagiarism, whatever, plus, right, will always bounce back and give bad opinion or bad thing for any dissertation or thesis. So this is very significant issue now, because everything is now available online. So no, anyone can go through your dissertation or thesis, research reports, right, and then find that these are all the issues, ethical issues reported in this part of the research in the dissertation or thesis and project, and it will always give a bad once they find it there is a problem. Yeah, this is again plagiarism. There are two different categories, right? Most of the plagiarism will come in the form of self-plagiarism, right? Unknowingly, right? We try to give some kind of references. We try to add our own sentences because this is easy to make a mistake, misconduct, this self-plagiarism, and 10%, right? This is external plagiarism. So try to avoid such kind of ethical issues, right? More careful with self plagiarism in any project, because you might have published a research paper and you might have added the part of the research paper into a dissertation, right? It will lead to self plagiarism. All right. So you try to change the sentences, or but you can't change the experimental procedure or research process or the equipment, but you can change other sentences with your different styling, language, that you can avoid self-plagiarism. And external plagiarism, right? As I said earlier, you have to be more careful, check, recheck, double check. You try to have all kinds of checks so that there will be no external plagiarism, which will always give you wrong misconduct problems. Then citations. This ethical issues mainly come with plagiarism and citation issues, right? These citations are credits, right? It should be appropriate, and almost the whole introduction part or body of the thesis or references part or discussions part, right? The citations should be appropriate, but most of the problem related to the citation will come in the introduction part, because only you try to give all sorts of references or citations in the introduction part, so that you thoroughly refer the literature, and then you try to say in the problem statement that this is very important and this is new and novel from the literature. So citation, appropriate citation, right? You should check, one should check in the introductory part, and then not only appropriate citation, right? There may be some kind of problem when you make an irrelevant citations, right? The citations which are not at all relevant to the topic of research or to the thesis, right? So it will also lead to ethical issues, right? For example, you may be knowing someone very close that they did something, and which may not, the topic of research may not be relevant to your research, to give credit to them, right? This is wrong credit. Wrong credit to them. You might have included their citations in your thesis, that it will also lead to ethical issues. So these ethical issues not only come with appropriate citations, and it also comes with wrong report of irrelevant citations in the introduction part or in the whole thesis part. And again, as I discussed earlier in the references, right, you try to give credit to each and everyone who have contributed to your research and who have clearly given some kind of literature data in the previous literature, and the this credit should be appropriate credit. It should not be that you are reporting someone known to you, or you are not reporting those who really did the work. So the credit or reference in your thesis will also give very good ethical problems. Yes, so far I have discussed almost everything. When you report a research with a thesis or dissertation or a project report, right? So now I come to the main part of my presentation. Research you try to do with a meaningful way, with proper objectives, with motivation, right? I try to give explanation for each and every topic I have given, how one can construct the research without any ethical issues, right? But I may not have time. I try to go in a faster way, and finally I try an elaborate thing in the ethical issues. Yes, when you report a thesis, right, the strong thesis takes some sort of stand, right? You can say the same statement in a different way. It is which statement is bold and which statement may not have any problem in your research reporting. You should be more clear. All right. There are many ways. I give an example here. There are some negative and positive aspects to the banana hub in the tea supplement. Right. This is a report given in an agricultural thesis. The same thing. Right. Banana hub tea supplement promotes rapid weight. So this is an elaborate. Right, this is precise. Right, it's better to be precise than elaborate into the introductory part. When you go for an discussion, right, in that, right, it should be is discussion part. So it should be a little bit elaborate. Right, you can see my family is an extended family. This is the report again in an art thesis. Right, but the same thing, right, when more, this is from American thesis, right, while most American families would view extended family as a burden, African American families rely extended family for support. So this is the discussion, right, aimed, but once you give, this may not give you a correct description of the research which we report in your thesis. Right, the main idea. Right, here again, what is the strong emphasis or expression in thesis? Right, here they try to give an insight about the internet and want to support the need for internet. Right, so two different statements, but it gives a better idea about the topic than this statement. So this is because focuses, right. The statement is that because the internet is filled with tremendous marketing potential, right? This is marketing. Companies should exploit this potential by using web pages that offer both advertising and customer support. But this is, though may convey, but this conveys in a better way. This is the main idea, right? So the statement should be like this, which gives credit, right, to the internet and its potential. Thesis should be specific also when you report, right? This is again from a world report, right? World hunger has many causes and effects, right? It gives it clarity, specific, all right? The same thing which as reported in a different way, which may not be specific. So before going the research writing, right, try to ask many questions, right, try to get the answers, right, try to report it, right. Main thing is that you have to ask who, what, when, where, how, which, why. Still many more questions, and try to have an answer, right, report in your thesis. Whatever objectives, whatever problems, right, you have chosen. Yeah, I think this is elaborate research. I go for research processes. I have prepared a lot, but maybe for one day, not for 1 hour. Yes, I try to give only one. The difference between research methods and methodology, right? Methods try to give refer to many ways of doing this, but methodology is very specific, and one should have research methodology focus rather than on research methods. Because this methodology gives empirical evidence, concepts, considerations, objective considerations, right? Probabilistic predictions, formulations, everything. I go for research processes. In research process, I try to go for yes. The flow chart. The flow chart. Either you do a theory or experiment, right? The flow chart will give you a very good impression and avoid many issues. Okay, so in the research process, using a flow chart, you define the research problem, you review or concept the theory and review previous research findings and formulate the hypothesis, design the research, collect data or execute the data, finally analyze the data with the hypothesis again, interpret the data and formulate the report. So this is the research process, right, which goes into completing a thesis. Whether it is master thesis or doctoral thesis, right, one has a broad flow chart like this, complete the research process. Okay, I go for research ethics. Yes. So this I already projected in the first slide as well. So the codes and policies, right, one should follow, right, to avoid any kind of ethical issues, either the general, social or natural, whatever science and animal science as well as agricultural research, they have got their own ethical issues. So ethics, once you say ethics, right, plagiarism, fabrication and falsification of data, conflict of interest, authorship, right, then experimental subjects, which is again directly or indirectly connected to conflicts of interest. Yes, specialized principles of research ethics. I have referred this book, right? Scientific honesty. Do not commit scientific fraud, and that is, do not fabricate, punch, trim, cook, destroy, or misrepresent data. Whatever research, right? Don't do anything, right, which will lead to some kind of fabricated work, right? Be honest in your scientific reports. Carefulness, right? This is again one of the principle to avoid ethical issues. Strive to avoid careless errors, sloppiness in all aspects of scientific work. Scientists should be allowed to pursue, right, new ideas, and also, right, I said, to try to argue whatever from the previous literature, but there is no need that you have to go with the previous research. But if they are a different thing, then you try to argue. There is no thing. You have intellectual freedom. But once you try to go with the wrong thing, right, you lead to ethical issues. Openness. All right. Share data, share your results, methods, theories, equipment, whatever tools you have used. Allow people to see your work and be open to criticism. This is again one of the things, right? Try to show your results, and if there is some kind of critical review, right, try to accept it. The principle of credit: do not plagiarize the work of other scientists, right? This is give you a lot of trouble and the ethical issues. Give credit where credit is due, but not where it is not due, right? This is again, give credit to the due credit. Don't try to give credit those who doesn't have the contributions or doesn't need to be given credit. Public responsibility, right? So report research in the public media, right, is important, and when it is going to human ethics, right, and it should be sufficiently validated. Some of the ethical problems, right, dishonesty, envy, exploitation, self-promotion, arrogance, etc., etc. Yes. Some topics may be repetitive, but still it tries to focus mainly on honesty, objectivity, integrity, right? Honestly report, avoid bias, anything in anywhere, keep your integrity, sincerity, right? This is how to avoid research ethics. Carefulness, openness, right? Confidentiality, right? Right. Sometimes you may be the reviewer, right? You may try to get some kind of research reviews, right? Don't try to pass on that to someone else, right? Which will lead to conflict of interest. So confidentiality is also one of the parameters, right? Which comes under ethics. Responsible monitoring, respect for colleagues, social responsibility, non-discrimination, right? Now again, now this is again treated as one of the major problem with the ethical issues. Competence, legality, right? When you do some kind of animal research, animal care with proper ethical boards, when you do some kind of human related research, human subjects protection. And finally, right, there are many other activities that do not define as misconduct, but which are still regarded as, right, unethical, other deviations, right, like, right, which I already discussed, but still it comes in the overall list. Publishing the same paper in 2 different journals without telling the editors, right? Submitting the same paper at a time to different journals without telling the editors, not informing a collaborator of your intent to file a patent in order to make sure that you are the sole inventor, including a colleague as an author, right, on a paper. In return, even though the colleague did not make any serious contribution to the paper, right, discussing with your colleagues the confidential information or data from a paper that you are reviewing from a journal, right, trimming outliers from a data set without discussing your reasons in the paper, right, using an inappropriate statistical technique in order to enhance the significance of your research. Bypassing the peer review and announcing your results through press conference without giving peers adequate information to review your work, conducting a review of the literature that fails to acknowledge the contributions of other people in the field are relevant for your work, stretching the truth on a grant application in order to convince reviewers in a project presentation, right? Stretching the truth on a job application or curriculum vitae, right? Giving the same research project to 2 graduate students in order to see who can do the fastest. Overworking, neglecting, exploiting, right? This is again an ethical issue in research, right? Graduate or postgraduate or postdoctoral students failing to keep good research records, failing to maintain research data for a reasonable time, making personal attacks or comments in the review of author submission, promising a better grade for some other favors, using a racist epithet in a laboratory. These are worst ethical issues, right? Making significant deviations in the research when you make an animal or human related research, not reporting an adverse event in human research experiment, wasting animals in research, right? Rejecting a manuscript for publication without even reading it. This is one of the worst ethical problem. Sabotaging someone's work, stealing supplies, books or data, and rigging an experiment so you can harm, making unauthorized copies of data, papers, computer programs, softwares, deliberately overestimating clinical significance of a new drug in a biological research or pharmaceutical research to obtain economic benefits. So it goes lot of things. All right. So just I try to stop in the next slide. Yeah, how to avoid plagiarism in research work. Understand the context. Do not copy paste. Understand the idea. Try to have good paraphrasing. Try to use quotes, right, and give clear citation for the quotes exactly the way they appear. Identify what does and does not need to be cited, and also manage your own citations, right, at appropriate and not in irrelevant way. Right, there are so many plagiarism checkers available in the net as well as for costs, right? So you try to make it, use it, and try to avoid, and never ever use someone else's original results and pass them off as yours.